Let's take a trip down memory lane to look at psychology from a historical perspective. Psychology is a relatively young field, only around 150 years old. But our fascination with human nature goes way back. From the musings of ancient philosophers to modern-day research, psychology has been trying to answer some of life's biggest questions. Like, do our thoughts and feelings shape our behavior? How does the brain work? Can we trust our own perceptions? How do we learn? Why do some people succeed while others don't? And what's up with dreams? But wait, there's more. Psychology also tackles the big questions like, what is personality and can it change? What is mental illness and how can it be treated? What is consciousness and what does it mean to be self-aware? And why are people superstitious? Millennia ago, philosophers like Aristotle, Hippocrates, and Plato were already pondering the mysteries of human nature. Descartes and others believed that the mind and body were separate entities, leading them to focus their studies on the mind. Psychology has been a wild ride. Early thinkers like Aristotle believed that human consciousness originated in the heart, not the head. I guess they didn't have enough brain power to figure that one out. Chinese philosophers like Lao Tzu and Confucius also contributed to our understanding of psychology. In fact, around 2,000 years ago, Chinese rulers conducted the world's first psychological exams. They required public officials to take personality and intelligence tests. Talk about a tough job interview. Muhammad ibn Zakaria al-Razzaz was one of the first to describe mental illness. He treated patients in what was essentially an early psych ward in his Baghdad hospital. I bet he had some interesting stories to tell. The era of scientific psychology began in 1879 with Wilhelm Wundt founding the first laboratory dedicated to psychological research in Leipzig, Germany. This was shortly after he published his Principles of Physiological Psychology, considered the first true psychology textbook. I wonder if it had any pop quizzes. And who could forget Sigmund Freud? His work The Interpretation of Dreams introduced the revolutionary concept of the unconscious and the controversial theory of the Oedipus complex. His theories helped shape our views on childhood personality, dreams, and sexuality. Talk about a Freudian slip. Psychology has come a long way in recent centuries, and some of the most influential thinkers have been asking some pretty big questions. B.F. Skinner's experiments on rats led him to propose that behavior is primarily driven by positive and negative reinforcement. So, if you want to change your behavior, you might want to try rewarding yourself for good habits instead of punishing yourself for bad ones. Alan Turing, best known for breaking the Enigma code, was also a pioneer in the field of artificial intelligence. He asked some big questions like, can machines think? And he even contemplated whether humans should really consider themselves as different from machines. Ivan Pavlov's lectures on conditioned reflexes laid the foundation for our understanding of classical conditioning. Meanwhile, Gordon Allport rejected both Freud's psychoanalytic and Skinner's behaviorist approach to explore prejudice in ways that significantly influenced the American civil rights movement. And William James examined streams of consciousness, emotion, habit, and will in his groundbreaking Principles of Psychology. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a key framework for understanding human motivation. It's a pyramid with the most fundamental needs at the bottom and the most advanced at the top. So if you're feeling unmotivated, maybe it's time to take care of your basic needs first. Leon Festinger's A Theory of Cognitive Dissonance sought to explain not only how new information can cause stress, but also why we often ignore messages that contradict our beliefs. So if you're feeling stressed out by new information, remember that it's okay to take your time processing it all. Psychology is a fascinating field that has seen some wild experiments. Philip Zimbardo's controversial The Lucifer Effect is based on his Stanford prison experiment. This experiment saw ordinary college students become prison guards, behaving so brutally that the study had to be halted after just 6 days. Talk about taking things too far. Coupled with Stanley Milgram's research on our propensity to obey authority figures, these experiments revealed that a majority of subjects were willing to administer electric shocks to strangers when instructed to do so. These findings serve as a stark reminder that we should always be mindful of our actions. You never know what you're capable of until you're put in a tough situation. Psychology is indeed a captivating discipline. It's dynamic, important, and poses a wide array of questions. The methods it employs and the diverse schools of thought it encompasses make it one of the most varied sciences. Perhaps more than any other science, psychology is an integrated melting pot of ideas and approaches. Approaches of psychology. In the time of Freud, a multitude of theories emerged on how to dissect the human mind. As psychology matured as a discipline, it adopted diverse methodologies. Some of these techniques for probing the human mind and behavior have fallen by the wayside, while others continue to shape our current comprehension of the human psyche. Key concepts from this era include structuralism, functionalism, and psychoanalysis. Modern approaches span biological, behavioral, psychodynamic, humanistic, cognitive, and sociocultural perspectives. These varied approaches do not necessarily conflict with each other. On the contrary, they provide complementary insights at different levels of analysis. Let's delve into structuralism. Wilhelm Wundt and his student Edward Bradford Titchener were inspired by chemists and physicists. They hypothesized that if these scientists could deconstruct all matter into basic elements or structures, couldn't the same be done for the brain? They aimed to comprehend the fundamental elements or structures of consciousness and mental processes using introspection, a technique that depends solely on an individual's conscious reflection. Patients were prompted to contemplate their mental experiences as events transpired. Despite its lofty name, structuralism mainly concentrated on sensation and perception, where aspects could be divided into components or parts. However, this approach became overly subjective as individuals might perceive and experience something differently from others, even when perceiving or experiencing the same object. We also draw upon Western philosophy and biology and physiology in our understanding of the mind structures, introspection, a systematic, detailed self-report. Moving on to functionalism, in contrast to the structuralist approach, American physician and philosopher William James proposed a unique perspective, focusing on the reasons behind our thoughts and feelings. He concentrated on the function of behavior in an approach known as functionalism, which was rooted in Charles Darwin's concept that adaptive behaviors are preserved through evolution. James published his groundbreaking book, The Principles of Psychology, in 1898, defining psychology as the science of mental life around the same time Freud was making his impact. While structuralists were dissecting the inner workings of the mind, functionalists were asking, how do humans interact with the outside world? The central question of functionalism is, why is human thought adaptive? Functionalism aligns well with Charles Darwin's principle of natural selection, which considers how organisms adapt to their environment, survive, and produce offspring. Genes associated with survival are more likely to be passed down from one generation to the next, and species change through random genetic mutation, explaining why members of a species differ from one another. We also incorporate Western philosophy and biology and physiology in our understanding of the functions and purposes of the mind, our interaction with the external world, stream of consciousness. Why is human thought adaptive? Let's now turn our attention to psychoanalysis. In 1886, Sigmund Freud embarked on his medical career at a hospital in Vienna and later established his own practice specializing in nervous disorders. During this time, Freud observed his colleague Joseph Breuer treating a patient named Anna O, using an innovative talking cure. This involved allowing her to verbalize her symptoms and recall traumatic memories, which led to a reduction in her symptoms. This breakthrough had a profound influence on Freud. From that point forward, Freud encouraged his patients to freely express whatever came to their minds, a technique known as free association. This method laid the groundwork for his career and an entire branch of psychology. In 1900, he published The Interpretation of Dreams, introducing his theory of psychoanalysis. While psychoanalysis is often associated with therapy sessions involving a patient on a couch, Freud's concept was far more complex and revolutionary. A key aspect of psychoanalysis was the theory that our personalities are shaped by unconscious motives. Freud suggested that we are significantly influenced by mental processes of which we are not even aware. This idea, while seemingly obvious now, was groundbreaking in 1900. The notion that our minds could be driven by something unknown to us was difficult to comprehend. However, Freud also proposed that the unconscious could be discovered through therapeutic techniques using dreams, projections, and free association to unearth repressed feelings and gain self-insight. Freud's assertion that mental disorders could be healed through talk therapy and self-discovery was a significant breakthrough. Before this, individuals with mental illnesses were often confined to sanatoriums and subjected to menial labor or even shackling. Psychoanalysis continues to be an important concept and practice today. Freud's psychoanalysis and its many descendants, known as psychodynamic theories, focus on the importance of early experiences in shaping the unconscious and how this process affects our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and personalities. The proponents of the psychodynamic approach believe that a person's early interactions with their parents were the major factors shaping their personality. We also draw upon Western philosophy and biology and physiology in our understanding of unconscious thoughts, the conflict between biological drives and societal demands, early childhood family experiences. Next, we explore behaviorism, the behaviorist approach to psychology, which surfaced in the first half of the 20th century, represented a significant paradigm shift in the field. This approach underscores the scientific study of observable behavioral responses and their environmental determinants. Pioneers in behaviorist psychology include B.F. Skinner, often regarded as the first behaviorist who dominated psychological research, Ivan Pavlov, and John Watson. Skinner is perhaps most famous for his experiments conditioning rats, pigeons, and even babies to perform certain behaviors using specially designed boxes. In the late 1930s, Skinner published his book, Behavior of Organisms, heralding the era of behaviorism, which remained a potent force in psychology well into the 1960s. We also incorporate Western philosophy and biology and physiology in our understanding of human behavior, experimental determinants of observable behavior, rejecting explanations, referencing thought. By the mid-20th century, several major schools of thought had emerged in psychology. These included humanistic psychology, cognitive science, and neuroscience, each offering their unique perspectives on the study of the mind. Humanistic psychology emphasizes fostering personal growth. It highlights an individual's positive attributes, their potential for growth, and their freedom to choose their own path. It underscores the belief that individuals have the power to shape their lives and resist being influenced by their environment. Topics such as altruism and optimism are extensively studied under this humanistic approach. We also draw upon Western philosophy and biology and physiology in our understanding of positive potential, free will. The cognitive approach underscores the mental processes involved in acquiring knowledge. Scientists who adopt this perspective concentrate on how we direct our attention, perceive our surroundings, remember experiences, think, and solve problems. We also incorporate Western philosophy and information processing in our understanding of how humans interpret incoming information, analyze it, keep it, and apply it to decision-making. The biological approach emphasizes that the brain is the physical basis of all thoughts and emotions. We also incorporate Western philosophy and biology and physiology in our understanding of neuroscience, nervous system, structure, function, development, and genetics. The evolutionary approach applies the evolutionary concepts of adaptation, reproduction, and survival of the fittest to explore and explain specific human behaviors. Evolutionary psychologists, like David Buss, argue that this approach offers a unifying framework for the diverse fields of psychology. We also incorporate Western philosophy and biology and physiology in our understanding of explanations of human behavior, adaptation, reproduction, and natural selection. The sociocultural approach focuses on the way in which the social and cultural environment influence behavior. With the rise of cultural diversity in most places, research on the influence of culture on behavior has led to important findings in the role that culture plays in our sense of self. We also incorporate Western philosophy and biology and physiology in our understanding of differences between ethnic and cultural groups within and across countries. The contemporary formal definition of psychology is a harmonious blend that draws from various schools of thought. It acknowledges the importance of observing and documenting behavior, whether it's screaming, laughing, crying, or playing, thereby giving due credit to our mental processes. Psychology is an integrated science, a discipline that revolves around formulating intriguing questions and striving to answer them through diverse data-gathering methods. The complexity of the human mind means that no single approach is sufficient to fully understand it. Instead, it must be examined from multiple perspectives. This concludes our exploration of the various approaches to psychology. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the fascinating landscape of the human mind. Subscribe to stay tuned for more great videos and be sure to smash that like button. Approaches of psychology. In the time of Freud, a multitude of theories emerged on how to dissect the human mind. As psychology matured as a discipline, it adopted diverse methodologies. Some of these techniques